Good Tuesday, everybody, and thank you for joining me for the 6th episode of the Southern Conservative Podcast. My name is Ty. Over the weekend, more text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were released. You'll remember that Peter Strzok is a key figure in the Trump-Russia Special Counsel investigation. Strzok at one point was the Deputy Assistant Director of the Counterintelligence Investigation at the FBI. Robert Mueller then picks Peter Strzok to be a part of his special counsel team. He was kicked off of that team last summer after text messages between him and his lover Lisa Page were discovered, in which the two of them made disparaging comments about Donald Trump. These text messages have only recently been made available to the public. In one of those text messages, Strzok and Page discussed creating an insurance policy in the event Trump was elected president. The text message refers to a conversation about this policy with a man by the name of Andy, who many believe to be Andrew McCabe, who is the Deputy Director of the FBI. When you tie all of this together with the fact that the dossier that we have been discussing was used in part to obtain a FISA warrant to spy on the Trump campaign and transition team, a dossier that was fake and paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC, and the author of the dossier had direct communications about the FBI's investigation into Trump-Russia collusion before the election, you start to see what a huge conspiracy this was to undermine our electoral process and to take down a presidential candidate and then president-elect. It was revealed earlier that there were about 10,000 text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Well, Jeff Sessions reveals on Monday that there are 50,000 text messages. Now, yesterday we learned that there are about 5 months' worth of text messages missing between December 14th, 2016 and May 17th, 2017. The FBI is blaming this on a technical glitch with Samsung 5 phones, saying there were, quote, misconfiguration issues related to rollouts, provisioning, and software upgrades that conflicted with the FBI's collection capabilities. So the FBI apparently had a cell phone technical glitch that lasted for 5 months? Really? And if there are 50,000 text messages between these two, at least the ones that exist, you know that there have to be thousands, if not tens of thousands of text messages that are missing. It's absolutely unreal. But what is the FBI or the Department of Justice doing to get those text messages? Are they asking Samsung for help? Do actual phones still exist? Some more bombshell text messages came out that gave some more insight into another Washington scandal. More on that in a little bit. But first, I want to read for you the latest article from Sarah Carter about this. And by the way, if you're someone who's been following Sarah Carter's Twitter account at SarahCarterDC, her website indicates that her account has been compromised as of yesterday, January 22nd. So just an FYI on that. Attorney General Jeff Sessions called Monday for a review of the nearly 5 months of missing text messages after the Bureau revealed Friday that thousands of text messages between embattled FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok and Mistress FBI Attorney Lisa Page, both at the center of the investigation alleging President Trump's campaign was colluding with the Russians, are missing. Current FBI agents say they are outraged by the Bureau's revelation, and members of both the House and the Senate say they want a full investigation into the Bureau's claims that its system had failed to preserve the text messages between the pair of agents from December 14, 2016 through May 17, 2017. According to the DOJ, there were more than 50,000 text messages between the two, who were reprimanded by the FBI and Special Counsel Robert Mueller for sending a trove of anti-Trump text messages to one another while part of the investigation. The text messages appeared to reveal a concerted effort to undermine Trump and the election. According to Jeff Sessions, he says, if any wrongdoing were to be found to have caused this gap, appropriate legal disciplinary action measures will be taken. We will leave no stone unturned to confirm with certainty why these text messages are not now available to be produced, and will use every technology available to determine whether the missing messages are recoverable from another source. If we are successful, we will update the congressional committees immediately. According to DOJ officials, the Inspector General has been reviewing the texts between Page and Strzok, based on the recent allegations that Department or FBI policies or procedures were not followed, and that certain underlying investigative decisions were based on improper considerations. Basically, it's based on the behavior of Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and the text messages that they sent out while they were working on the Trump-Russia investigation. Senator Ron Johnson, the chairman of the Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs, sent a letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray stressing, quote, "The loss of records from this period is concerning because it is apparent from other records that Mr. Strzok and Ms. Page communicated frequently about the investigation." 6 congressional committees made the request to the Department of Justice for FBI text messages between Strzok and Page. Attorney General Jeff Sessions said in a statement Monday that he has spoken to the Inspector General and a review is already underway to ascertain what occurred and to determine if these records can be recovered in any other way. The DOJ agreed to produce the records as quickly as possible, said Sessions. It also appears that Strzok and Page were aware before a decision was made by former FBI Director James Comey that charges would not be filed against then-presidential candidate Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server to send classified messages, according to an additional 400 pages of text messages recently made available to Congress. And I'll sum that up in just a little bit. According to a former senior FBI official, the DOJ required the FBI in 2015 to archive all text messages and emails. Sources with knowledge say it appears that the messages sent on their FBI Samsung 5 phones during those months were never captured by the internal server after an apparent conflict with an upgrade on the phone, according to Senator Johnson's letter. The FBI had told Stephen Boyd, the Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legislative Affairs, that due to FBI-provided Samsung 5 mobile phones with software upgrades that conflicted with collection capabilities, the text messages were not recorded, Senator Johnson's letter states. The months of missing text messages are crucial, say former and current U.S. officials, as it was during that time frame that the Obama administration had ramped up its investigation into then-President-elect Trump and began to increase the unmasking of his associates, including former security advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Now here are some quotes from some senior FBI official. Quote, "A technical glitch, are you me," said this person with knowledge of how the program works. They spoke on condition of anonymity due to the sensitive nature of the subject. This person goes on to say, "Do you realize how convenient this is? And this shows how deep the problem is inside the Bureau. I would have the records and management guys subpoenaed. Congress should be livid right now." Stephen Boyd, the Assistant Attorney General for Legislative Affairs at the Justice Department, wrote to Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson on Friday telling him the department wants to bring to your attention the FBI's technical system for retaining text messages sent and received on FBI mobile devices failed to preserve text messages from Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. A congressional officer told this reporter that this is pretty blatant. It's hard to make those things disappear. They would take some kind of hit on this, but this may be a smaller hit than former and current Bureau agents. They are trying to get us to believe that everything up until that time. It is all FBI phone messages that are missing from those months, or just these 2. They should grab every text message sent between leadership on the 7th floor. Flynn's name in the highly classified private conversation with former Russian ambassador Sergei Kislyak were leaked to the Washington Post's David Ignatius in January 2016. Shortly after that story broke, Flynn was removed from his post at the White House. Strzok was one of 2 FBI agents who interviewed Flynn on January 24th at the White House, as reported earlier. The other FBI special agent who interviewed Flynn is described by sources as a field supervisor in the, quote, Russian squad at the FBI's Washington field office, according to a former intelligence official with knowledge of the interview. The special counsel's office removed Strzok from his role after it was discovered he had made disparaging comments about President Trump in messages to Page, according to the New York Times and Washington Post, which first reported the stories. Strzok is also under investigation by the Department of Justice Inspector General for his role in Hillary Clinton's email server and the ongoing investigation into Russia's election meddling. So from this article, we get that Sessions vows to get to the bottom of the missing text messages, and folks within the FBI don't believe this is due to a technical glitch. And really, I don't think anybody out there with an ounce of common sense believes it's a technical glitch either. It's just too obvious, and it's just another example of missing messages that have been crucial parts of various scandals during the Obama administration. So let's take a look back at history, folks. Look at Hillary's email scandal. She deleted 33,000 emails that she deemed to be personal from an email account she was using while she was Secretary of State. She preserved 30,000 work-related emails. But then she used a program called BleachBit to make sure anything left on her homebrewed server would be destroyed and could not later be recovered. She went out of her way, folks, to hide these emails. Why go to all that trouble if those personal emails just dealt with yoga and Chelsea's wedding? After all, that's what she had told us. Then you have the IRS scandal involving Lois Lerner's missing emails. We were told emails were missing and could not be retrieved, and then they were found, thousands of them. Ultimately, it was revealed that the IRS had indeed unfairly targeted conservative groups as they were trying to get tax-exempt statuses from the IRS. Now, as mentioned earlier, some more text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were made available over the weekend, and they show how the fix was in the Hillary Clinton email scandal. Remember, not only was Peter Strzok heavily involved in both the FBI's investigation and Robert Mueller's investigation into Trump-Russia collusion, but he was the lead investigator into the Hillary Clinton email scandal. We already have evidence that James Comey's conclusion in the investigation was altered to exonerate Hillary Clinton before she or other key witnesses were even interviewed. Peter Strzok is believed to have been involved in altering the language, including changing Hillary's gross negligence in her handling of classified information to extreme carelessness. Remember, gross negligence is the phraseology used in the statute governing the mishandling of classified information. After it was revealed that Donald Trump was going to be the Republican nominee for president, Strzok and Page discussed how the pressure was on to really start finishing the MYE, which is the mid-year exam, the code name that was used inside the FBI for the email investigation. Well, now we have more messages that have come out really showing that this fix was in. Here's a piece from an article written by Cheryl Atkinson over at The Hill. Former Attorney General Loretta Lynch knew well in advance of FBI Director James Comey's 2016 press conference that he would recommend against charging Hillary Clinton, according to information turned over to the Senate Homeland Security Committee on Friday. The revelation was included in 384 pages of text messages exchanged between FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, and it significantly diminishes the credibility of Lynch's earlier commitment to accept Comey's recommendation, a commitment she made under the pretense that the two were not coordinating with each other. And it gets worse. Comey and Lynch reportedly knew that Clinton would never face charges even before the FBI conducted its 3-hour interview with Hillary Clinton, which was supposedly meant to gather more information into her mishandling of classified information. On July 1, 2016, as the Lynch announcement became public, Lisa Page texted Peter Strzok, and yeah, it's a real profile of courage since she knows no charges will be brought. Now, the timing is key on this, folks. Loretta Lynch announced on June 30th, 2016, that she would accept Comey's recommendation on whether or not to prosecute Hillary Clinton. She would leave it up to James Comey to make the recommendation, and she would just accept his recommendation. Either way, whether to prosecute or not to prosecute. Now, here's part of an article from the New York Times, dated July 1st, 2016. Attorney General Loretta E. Lynch conceding that her airport meeting with former President Bill Clinton this week had cast a shadow over the federal investigation of Hillary Clinton's personal email account, said Friday that she would accept whatever recommendations career prosecutors and the FBI director made about whether to bring charges in the case. Ms. Lynch said she had decided this spring to defer to the recommendations of her staff and the FBI because her status as a political appointee sitting in judgment on a politically charged case would raise questions of a conflict of interest. But the meeting with Mr. Clinton, she acknowledged, had deepened those questions, and she said she now felt compelled to explain publicly her reasoning to try to put the concerns to rest. She said, "People have a whole host of reasons to have questions about how we in government do our business," Lynch said at an Aspen Institute conference in Colorado. "My meeting on the plane with former President Clinton could give them another reason to have questions and concerns." Though she insisted the 30-minute conversation was purely a social encounter, Miss Lynch said, "I certainly would not do it again." Now, Hillary Clinton wasn't interviewed by the FBI until the Saturday before the July 4th holiday weekend in 2016, which was on July 2nd. And Lisa Page is sending a text message to Peter Strzok saying it's a real profile of courage since she, meaning Loretta Lynch, knows no charges will be brought. And of course, Comey comes out on July 5th saying that no reasonable prosecutor would go after Hillary Clinton since there was no criminal intent to mishandle classified information. The timing of all of this, folks, is just incredible. Lisa Page and Peter Strzok knew in advance Hillary was not going to be prosecuted. We believed this when we first learned that Strzok had altered Comey's report, which was done early in the spring of 2016. And now we have the proof in the form of this text message. And what's even more damning is the fact that Strzok would go on to become part of Robert Mueller's special counsel. The special counsel, the basis for which relies on the dossier, which is full of lies and full of Russian propaganda, paid for by the very same woman that Peter Strzok helped to get off the hook for mishandling classified information. You couldn't write a novel this good, folks. Now, I want to remind everyone to check out the Southern Conservative Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/Southern Conservative. That's facebook.com/Southern Conservative. There you will find links to all of the podcasts, as well as links to articles from different conservative outlets on news you might not hear about in the mainstream media. Also, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. You'll be notified every time a new podcast has been released. Podcasts are posted to this channel daily, Monday through Thursday. And if you're someone who plans ahead, just a heads up, there will not be a podcast on Wednesday, February 7th, which happens to be the day before the government runs out of money again. And speaking of running out of money, let's discuss the shutdown for a bit, folks. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but it's worth talking about. Now, yesterday, the Democrats folded in a major way, failing to support Senate Republicans and voting for the House CR. Republicans were unable to break a Democratic filibuster last week, the night before the shutdown, voting 50-49 to end debate, but as we all know, the Senate needs 60 votes if you want to invoke cloture to end debate. Well, Monday afternoon, the vote to end debate was 81-18. The vote on final passage was the same, 81-18. Now, here are a list of the senators, I'll put them up on the screen, who flipped their original vote from no to yes to reopen the government. Now, remember, the original 5 Democrats who voted to keep the government open in the first place last week were Doug Jones of Alabama, Joe Donnelly of Indiana, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota, and Claire McCaskill of Missouri. Now, here are the 27 Democrats who switched their vote from no to yes. Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, Michael Bennet of Colorado, Sherrod Brown of Ohio, Maria Cantwell of Washington State, Ben Cardin of Maryland, Tom Carper of Delaware, Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, Chris Coons of Delaware, Tammy Duckworth of Illinois, Dick Durbin of Illinois, Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire, Mark Heinrich of New Mexico, Tim Kaine of Virginia, Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, Patty Murray from Washington State, Bill Nelson from Florida, Gary Peters from Michigan, Jack Reed from Rhode Island, Brian Schatz from Hawaii, Chuck Schumer from New York, Jeanne Shaheen from New Hampshire, Tina Smith from Minnesota, Debbie Stabenow from Michigan, Tom Udall from New Mexico, Chris Van Hollen from Maryland, Mark Warner of Virginia, and Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. Now, Angus King, who's an independent senator from Maine, also voted yes, and he originally had voted no, so he changed his vote as well. Now, there were 2 Republicans who voted against keeping the government open, Rand Paul of Kentucky and Mike Lee of Utah, and they did this over concerns of the debt and deficit and the need to pass actual appropriations bills. It's not because they're looking for widespread amnesty for DACA recipients. So that leaves a remaining 16 Democrats who voted no because they wanted a DACA deal, essentially trying to grant amnesty to DACA recipients and family members. And these 16 Democrats are Dianne Feinstein of California, Kamala Harris of California, Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, Chris Murphy of Connecticut, Mazie Hirono of Hawaii, Ed Markey of Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, Jon Tester of Montana. Now that's surprising, folks, given how red Montana is, and the fact that Jon Tester is a very vulnerable Democrat up for re-election in 2018. Now, I don't know if he already sees the handwriting on the wall that he's going to lose, but, this certainly doesn't help his chances. And you combine this with the fact that he voted against the Trump tax plan, and if you're a Republican running for the Senate in Montana trying to unseat Jon Tester, you certainly have a lot to run on. Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, Cory Booker of New Jersey, Bob Menendez of New Jersey, Kirsten Gillibrand of New York, Jeff Merkley of Oregon, Ron Wyden of Oregon, Patrick Leahy of Vermont, and Bernie Sanders, the independent Democrat, the self-proclaimed socialist from Vermont. Now, the House voted 266 to 150 to pass the Senate version, which keeps the government open through February 8th, and it also funds CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program, for 6 years. Democrats caved on the hopes there would be real discussions on DACA between now and February 8th. As I mentioned yesterday, we need to make sure that we have border security and a border wall before we tackle DACA or the other illegal immigrants, including those who have overstayed student and work visas. We also need to look at cleaning up the legal immigration system, including the immigration lottery system. Now, I agree with President Trump that we need to move toward a skills or merit-based system of immigration like many other industrialized countries around the world. We can't take in people who do not have the skills or the means to support themselves, and those who will not assimilate into American culture. We need to stem the flow of illegal immigrants and drugs across our southern border. We need to vet the DACA recipients, most of whom are adults, by the way. We need to check backgrounds, criminal histories, and so forth. We need to check and see if they have the means to support themselves. As far as granting citizenship, they need to get in the back of the line, like those who have waited years and paid their dues to become citizens the legal way. So we'll see where the discussions go, but don't doubt me on this one. The Democrats made a huge mistake and a huge misstep in shutting down the government. Trump and other Republicans did a great job of calling this for what it is: Democrats prioritizing illegal immigrants over American citizens and holding the military and government workers hostage while they, the Democrats, try to get amnesty for illegal immigrants without providing funding for a secure southern border. It was effective, and honestly, this whole thing reveals exactly where the Democratic Party is heading in the future in terms of their platform and who it is they are seeking out votes. And that's really the key focus in all of this, folks, for the Democrats. They want to legalize illegal immigrants, give them citizenship so they can vote in massive numbers for Democrats. Remember, they wouldn't be doing this if they knew the Republicans were the ones who would benefit from legalizing the illegal immigrants and giving them citizenship. Well, that's all I've got for today, folks. I hope you'll join me for another podcast tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.